No lawyer dared to challenge the billionaire until a waitress read the fine print. Everyone in the city knew Gregory Winton, the man whose empire stretched from steel to satellites. He bought politicians as easily as he bought coffee, and people swore that even the sun didn't rise over the skyline without asking him first. He wasn't just rich, he was untouchable. For 20 years, lawsuits bounced off him like rubber pellets against a tank. Employees who tried to expose him vanished into settlements wrapped in NDAs thicker than concrete. Journalists who pressed too hard suddenly faced unrelated tax audits. Lawyers who attempted to sue him never made it past preliminary hearings. And so, when the notice about the Winton Urban Redevelopment Project arrived at Maple Street Diner, the staff didn't think they stood a chance. The letter stated that the diner, an old chrome building from the 50s loved by truckers, night shift nurses, and anyone who needed comfort food at 3 a.m., was to be demolished within 30 days. Eminent domain, the letter said. For the public good. But everyone knew it wasn't for the public. It was for Winton's new luxury tower, which would block the river view, choke out the neighborhood's last blue-collar refuge, and replace it with glass, marble, and security guards who would never let real people through the doors. When the owner, 58-year-old Joyce Fowler, read the letter, her hands trembled. The diner was her life. She had inherited it from her father, who had built it after returning from the war, and she had kept every photograph, every recipe, every dent in the counter that told a story. "We'll fight," her nephew Leo said, but even he didn't sound convinced. They called 10 lawyers. 9 said no immediately. 1 took the appointment, read the name, Winton, and politely pretended he had an emergency appendectomy to attend. That night, the diner was unusually quiet. Only 3 customers sat at the counter. A truck driver, a college kid writing an essay, and a sharply dressed man with a diamond tie pin. The waitress on duty, 23-year-old Mira Patel, moved between tables with mechanical rhythm. She had worked double shifts all week and still barely had enough for rent. She wasn't a lawyer. She wasn't powerful. She was simply tired, until she saw the letter lying on the counter, the one Joyce had been staring at all day. Something about it bothered her. She picked it up, scanning the legal jargon. Growing up, she had been the kid who actually read the fine print on game rules, lease agreements, and school forms. Details fascinated her. "Mind if I look?" she asked. Joyce shrugged. "If you can make sense of it, you're one step ahead of me." Mira read the letter twice. Then a third time. On the fourth, she frowned. "Joyce, this clause here, Section 4C. It says eminent domain applies only if the acquisition is funded by a public entity." "Yeah, the city's involved," Joyce sighed. "The mayor signed off. But the funding source listed isn't the city," Mira said slowly. "It's a private subsidiary. Winton Urban Holdings." Joyce blinked. Meaning, Mira said, excitement rising like fizz in a soda bottle. "He can't legally use eminent domain unless he lies about where the money is coming from. And if he lied here, he might have lied on the city paperwork too." Leo looked up. "But no lawyer will take the case." Mira hesitated only a moment. Then she walked to the sharply dressed man with the diamond tie pin. "Sir," she said, "are you really going to order dessert, or are you here because your boss wants this diner gone?" He froze, fork halfway to his mouth. The hesitation was all the answer she needed. "Thought so," she said. "Enjoy the pie." The next morning before her shift, Mira went to the Public Records Building. She waited in 3 wrong lines, got lost twice, and spilled coffee on one form, but by noon she had copies of every document filed for the redevelopment project. She sat on a bench outside, papers spread around her like a mad scientist. And she found it. The funding source on the city form didn't match the one in the letter. One said, public-private partnership. The other said, privately financed. That was illegal, a small violation, but enough to trigger an audit or even freeze the project. But they still needed a lawyer. Or did they? That night, when the diner filled up with the usual hum of clattering plates and jazz from the old jukebox, Mira made a decision. She opened her phone, typed a message into a neighborhood forum, and hit post, looking for anyone with legal experience who hates billionaires and loves diners. She expected jokes, maybe sympathy. She did not expect a reply 30 minutes later. Username: Law Dog Retired. The message said, Send me the documents. Mira sent them. 5 minutes later, she received. Whoever wrote this up for Winton is sloppy. He's gotten away with murder for decades, but this is amateur hour. Can you help us fight? She wrote. A pause. Then, meet me tomorrow at the diner. The man who walked in the next day wore jeans, a worn leather jacket, and a limp that told a story he didn't share. Name's Darius Cole, he said. Used to be a corporate attorney. Took on Winton 15 years ago. Leo's eyes widened. You're the guy whose career he destroyed. Darius shrugged. He didn't destroy me. He just reminded me I like sleeping at night. He spread the documents on the table. This is enough for an injunction. Maybe more. But you, he pointed at Mira. How did you spot this? I read things, she said awkwardly. Thoroughly. He grinned. Good. You're coming with me to file this. Me, she squeaked. But she went. Together they filed the motion, and 3 days later, the impossible happened. A judge granted a temporary halt. News cameras swarmed the diner. Reporters shoved microphones at Joyce. How did you pull this off? And Joyce looked at Mira, who stood shocked beside the napkin dispenser. She read the fine print, Joyce said proudly. Winton's legal team reacted within hours. They flooded the court with motions, appeals, threats. They claimed clerical error, misinterpretation, technical mistake. But Mira kept finding more inconsistencies. Every time they filed something, she and Darius pored over it, hunting for cracks. And cracks there were. Winton had grown so used to winning that he had stopped being careful. The final blow came 2 weeks later when Mira discovered a hidden clause referring to environmental impact studies that had never been conducted. He lied, she said, on a federal form. Darius whistled. That's not just civil, that's criminal. The city froze the entire redevelopment plan. Then they opened an investigation. And for the first time in 20 years, Gregory Winton lost. Lost publicly, spectacularly. The luxury tower proposal died. Stockholders demanded answers. Politicians distanced themselves. And Maple Street Diner stayed exactly where it was. On the night the verdict became official, the diner overflowed with customers celebrating. Darius raised a milkshake like a champagne glass. To Joyce. To Leo. To the diner. Then he looked at Mira. And to the waitress who did what no lawyer dared. The diner erupted in applause. Mira blushed so hard she nearly matched the neon sign outside. Joyce hugged her. You saved my life's work. No, Mira said, smiling through happy tears, I just read the fine print. Outside, the city lights glowed. Somewhere in a penthouse, a billionaire stared at documents he had once believed made him invincible, all brought down by a waitress with an eye for details. And that is how a small diner, against all odds, survived the biggest man in the city, not through power, wealth, or influence, but through the quiet brilliance of someone the world had underestimated. The waitress who read the fine print.